Hello and welcome everybody to the Who Corners to Corners. You see what we did there? This is the only game show this side of Iceworld with 0 prizes, 0 appeal and an unpronounceable catchphrase that's about as popular as a killjoy clown in a quarry. However, what we lack in talent and stash, we more than make up for with enough Nitro 9 to bring evolution to a standstill and frighten the bejesus out of anyone called Ratkin or Midge. I'm your host, my name's Gordon Bennett, and I'm as happy as a psychotic licorice allsword in a candy kitchen to welcome our contestants to the show. So please give happiness to Geoff C. from Horsham.
Hello, I don't know how to follow that.
You don't have to, it's all on me. And Sophie A. from the fictional universe of Perryville.
That was wicked.
Okay, it's not over yet. Hold on, I've got some questions I'm going to answer because this is an actual bona fide game show. Contestants, get ready to answer our
Where's my buzzer?
questions.
Do we have to do the buzzer?
We'll have to do a buzzer. We'll do a buzzer effect on afterwards or something like that. Okay, here goes. So, first question goes to Geoff C. Geoff, in a game of blackjack, which playing card has a face value of either 1 or 11, depending on some vague dealer-biased rules nobody really understands?
Tiddlywink one.
What?
Incorrect. Sophie, in 1980, the incredibly loud and extremely hairy heavy metal band Motorhead released a single entitled The What of Spades.
Ace!
Ace! Geoff, time to redeem yourself. In tennis, what is the name given to a winning serve unreturned by an opponent?
I've got this now. It's Ace, isn't it?
It is! Well done! Next question, Sophie, what might you call that annoying git who is literally amazing at everything?
Ace.
Ace, that's right. Geoff, what acronym is the common US military term for Armoured Combat Earth Mover?
Let me think about that. It's Ace.
It is! Well done, points. And the final question to Sophie. What do the following have in common? A Blue Peter badge, a Harley-Davidson Eagle pin, the Thunderbirds logo, and a NASA Enterprise Approach Landing Test Shuttle patch?
They're all on Ace's jacket.
Yes! They are! Yes, well done. Right, that's enough of that rubbish.
Very
Get
good.
out of the bin and take the jacket off there. Do you know, I was slaving on that for literally minutes.
I need to know where that jacket came from.
That's been in my cupboard for about 20 years, Geoff. So the reason why do we have such a long-winded and, in the end, spectacular fail of an introduction?
From me, not from you guys.
Geoff, you obviously don't play blackjack, mate. I mean, I'm just disappointed in you, frankly. Anyway, why don't you tell us, Geoff? Why did I go to all that trouble? Go on, tell us.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Because I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Tonight on our podcast, we are joined by the one and the only Sophie Aldred, who you will know as Ace from the worlds of Doctor Who. Good evening, Sophie.
Good evening. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
that was very good. I didn't know anything about that. So
tried to do.
I really didn't.
I didn't tell him anything. No,
Brilliant.
I just dreamed it up because I've been on far too many headache tablets today, I'm afraid.
Buzzing.
Oh, well, that's
that's what
did
happens.
Yeah.
That's what it is, yeah. That's what happens in the world of nonsense, that's for sure. So, Sophie, thank you so much for joining us this evening and coming onto our little podcast to answer questions not only from me and Geoff, my good mate, but also from around the Twitterverse as well. So we've got a load of those to put to you. So think of it as a kind of a sort of slightly friendly grilling session, which will require you to expunge your Doctor Who knowledge for the next sort of 50 minutes or so.
I'd love to do that.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Okay,
Geoff, you can kick off because you're good at this kind of thing.
So, Sophie, my first question for you is: how did you get the role of Ace in Doctor Who?
Oh golly, I could tell you this the version which goes on for 50 minutes or the quick one.
It's going to be the quick one, isn't it, I think?
Well,
tell us the long one another time.
My agent put me up for Doctor Who because they wanted somebody who looked younger than they were and who could ride a motorbike. And she wrote,
yes.
has own leathers on the back of my photo, which I assert is why the director brought me in. Anyway, went to see the director. It was my first ever telly audition.
Yeah.
Had no idea what the role was all about. And then got a recall went to see John Nathan Turner, the executive producer.
The
Yeah,
prod.
and I was literally in there for 10 minutes. And then a couple of weeks later, I got the part. I didn't have a screen test. And
Yeah.
it was a punt by John. It was amazing, actually. Really incredible.
I've heard you tell this on various DVD commentaries and documentaries and various things, but I know for a lot of our listeners it'll be the first time they heard it. But there's this overriding image I have from I think one of your interviews where you said John Nathan Turner sort of came down for, you heard the click 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 of the gallery of his footsteps down the stairs, and he comes down with a fag in his mouth or something. He was like, it's a different world back in those days, wasn't it? Oh, that's brilliant. But where were you when that call came through? Were you involved in acting? Was it quite new for you at that stage?
I was first of all in children's theatre. I always wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter. Really, that was my ultimate goal.
That was your aspiration.
And so, I'd got into children's theatre, going around schools, doing theatre there, going around parks and stuff, and then I went into musicals, and I was in Fiddler on the Roof in the back row of the chorus in Manchester at the Opera House. And that was when my agent just sent me down to London. I begrudged the train fare because I was on equity minimum, and I had to keep time because I had to get back in time to do the show. So I'd been treading the boards for, let's see, I was probably about 4 years. 3 years, 4 years.
It's amazing, isn't it, how just something like that can change your life completely. That like we talked to Kevin McNally recently, who was in Doctor Who Flux recently, and we were talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, and he said he wasn't going to go to the audition. He was sitting at home in the garden, he'd had a little bit of wine, couldn't really be bothered, didn't think he would get it, and then his friend said, I'll take you, I'll make you go, and he went, he got the part, and of course it changed his whole life. And he could have just not gone, and
extraordinary.
You having Own Zone Leathers written on the back of your headshot, that's the kind of thing that it sticks in someone's mind, doesn't it? And it's just, I think you have to take any opportunity that comes, because you just never know what will come out of it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So at what point did you feel that you really got Ace and as a character, and how much input did you have into her?
Well, it was fabulous, because at the time, Andrew Cartmel, our script editor, who was, young, I don't know how young he was, but he really loved the character of Ace, and he kind of co-created the character with Ian Britt, the writer of the first story, Dragonfire. And I remember turning up to the read-through, and he came up afterwards and he said, I really like what you're wearing. Do you think Ace would wear that kind of thing? I was wearing a stripy shirt, some army shorts, some Doc Martens, and you can see where it's going. And so I designed my costume, basically. I said, this is what I'd like to wear. The costume designer said, great. And I think because I'd been involved in small-scale theatre, children's theatre, where I'd had a lot of input, I just assumed that's what you did in telly too.
Right.
And I think I found her straight away. It was such a brilliant environment to work in those days. It was, you had rehearsals, which you don't have anymore. You had this camaraderie. Sylvester was amazing. He was just so welcoming and so fun. Bonnie Langford, who was the companion when I did my first story, she was also brilliant. We still get on really, really well. Great. So it was just this. There was Tony Selby, Tony Sober.
Of course,
it was just a really lovely environment. So I always felt at home, and I felt that I could. I don't know. Do you know what? Actually, if I'm honest, I think I got Ace when I first read the audition script. Yeah, sitting in Union House, which is now no longer, sadly, but it was at the top end of Shepherd's Bush, where the John's office was. I remember vividly sitting in reception, being handed this sheet of paper with what Ace says in Dragonfire on it, which is like a little monologue in effect. And I just thought, yeah, I've got this.
You got it.
I don't know what it was. It's weird because her character actually is not very like me at all. Or it certainly
Yeah.
wasn't my experience growing up. So it was just something about it. I just felt I could really, I
Yeah.
could do this.
There's some
brilliant,
characters that you can't imagine anyone else ever playing them, and you know, Ace and Ace are, you know, one of them, and I think there's a lot actually across all of Doctor Who, isn't there? You know, I couldn't imagine, you know, anyone else playing any of the Doctors or
No.
you know, any of the companions. You know, they just inhabit it and do it so well and so perfectly, and you know, like you got it straight away there for the part. You know, so. As your first kind of major role, how did it feel taking part in something that was so well known? Did you kind of, you know, realise the kind of, you know, the popularity and the size of it all when you came on board?
No idea, really. I'd watched Doctor Who growing up. I'd watched John Pertwee. I'm old enough to have watched Patrick Troughton, but I don't think we had a telly in those days, because back in the day, not everybody was. Back in the day with the 2 channels, you know.
Yeah.
And you couldn't, you had to go over to the telly with the coat hanger in the back to alter the signal.
That's it. Stay there. We got it. You don't move now.
Yes, if you stand on the top of the sofa, then we can watch this.
Yeah, on one foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Has to be on one foot. Yeah. Kids of today, they got no idea. No,
they got no idea with their millions of channels and streaming options.
I was saying to my son recently, you know, if you missed it when it went out, that was it. It was gone. You could see it. You know, he couldn't understand that.
Yes.
You know that it wasn't on demand and on tap.
Absolutely.
You know, whenever he wanted. Yeah.
And the sort of whole thing about live telly, because you can't tell anymore, can you? Whether it's live, it's like what?
No idea.
No.
So yeah, I can't remember what we were saying then. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, was it a surprise? Well, and then when I got the call to go for the audition, I thought it was quite funny actually, because I didn't even know Doctor Who was still going. I'd missed Colin Baker completely because I'd been at university and then working.
Have you told him that since? Has he forgiven you for it?
So the last thing I knew was Peter with Janet, with Tegan. That's who I remember last watching as a sort of late teenager. So yeah, it was quite a surprise, and my friends actually just thought it was hilarious. They kept my feet firmly on the ground. But then I hadn't really realised the hugeness of it, absolute, just like the love for the show. Now it's completely apparent, you know.
Do you think that was a good thing at the time? Because if you really kind of understood the pressure in a way, it might have been a bit too scary going into it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you see, the great thing about them days was there was no social media.
Yeah.
So I was still living in my housing association flat in Lewisham with my mates, and and the first week, rehearsal pay package, after I'd paid my agent and taken tax off, I was earning less money than I was in theatre. So, you know, which is not saying much. So it certainly didn't go to my head or anything like that. It was fun. It really was. I mean, that's what amazed me about the trailer I'll bring it up to date.
Yeah.
Was on Easter Sunday, because this trailer, 30 seconds or whatever it was quite funny actually. I was at my dad and stepmom's, and I told them that there was this trailer on, and we sat there with my sons who didn't really know. I hadn't told them.
Oh yeah, okay.
Did know, and my dad and stepmom, and we watched that very final beautiful scene with Jodie and Mandip, and then the trailer comes on, and there's like that quick. It happened so quickly, and there was sort of silence afterwards. And my stepmom said, "Is that it? Anyone want pudding?"
Just like that.
And then I glanced down at my phone, and it nearly exploded. I had sort of 500 tweets in 5 minutes. You know, It was just extraordinary, and it went on for it's still going on now. Yeah, here we are. Somebody following me right there. I mean, it's just. I think, I don't know. I mean, I was always quite level-headed anyway, but it would have been a very different experience in those days.
Yeah.
It probably would. I mean, that just on that trailer, because you've taken me back to, was it only last Sunday?
Yeah.
Was it a couple of Sundays ago. No, it was
Yeah.
Easter Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Easter Sunday, yeah. And I mean, I had no clue at all. And I literally
Did you?
fell off
Was
my
it?
chair. I mean, there's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right? I did, honestly. We were watching it. Like you said, it was that wonderful scene with Mandip and Jodie at the end. And I was watching it with my daughter. She's a Doctor Who fan as well. She's 14 going on 15, going on 37 or
parenting,
something.
I call that.
And I thought so. And I both were just went, oh my God, that's Ace. And Tegan, Ace and Tegan, what? We just could not believe it. It was just one of those things which, as a lifelong fan, you know, you just think, I'm never going to see this, but you see it and you think, well, it's ridiculous because it's just a TV program.
But that's
clearly
it's more
not.
than
It's
that, isn't
much
it?
more than
And
that. It's
Some of the,
it's
some
something
of
that
the
reaches down deep into
I've
your
had
soul.
have been so moving,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
and really incredible
beautiful.
about the difference that Ace made to people in their lives. Some of them have had me in tears, actually.
Really?
Yeah, really amazing.
Yeah.
And the degree to which people are so emotional about the return of our characters, it's quite extraordinary.
Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask, first I wanted to say that Paul and I particularly, we really love this era of the show, and they've been so good at keeping secrets.
Yes.
So when you and Janet
love
popped
that.
up,
Yeah.
like nobody had any idea, and
Isn't that
it's in this.
extraordinary?
No
in this
Yeah,
born age.
That's exactly what I was
this
going to
day and
say.
age,
Yeah,
definitely,
everything else
yeah.
is leaked and
Yes.
spoiled, and Chris Chibnall's managed to keep so much of this era under wraps and give us genuine surprises and shocks. So.
Yes.
I know you know, but we don't know what's coming up in that episode. So we can only imagine what else
I'm not
is
going to
to
say-
come.
Oh,
No,
no.
you shouldn't.
Don't
No.
worry, we're not going to ask.
So,
you're ready
yeah.
to tell us we're not allowed to ask any questions on that at
So,
all.
well, I've got one question which is sort of not directly related to it, but when Chris Chibnall called about it, what did you think? What was your reaction? Because you've played this part for all these years now, and it must, like you were saying, some of the messages you've had have brought tears to your eyes, and it must be quite wonderful to have played it for so long and have so much connection with people, and to be asked back into the modern era again. So yeah, how did you feel with it?
Well, it is extraordinary, as you say, because it's been such a big part of my life, Doctor Who and Ace. Somebody asked me at a convention a few years ago, how much of you is Ace now and how much of Ace is you? And it's like, well, I don't really know, because you can't
That
you
line
can't
is
say
blurred.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've been playing that character for all these years, thanks to Big Finish, the Big Finish audios. So yeah, what happened was I was in my house, my agent rang and she said, Andy Pryor has just rung to do an availability check.
Yeah.
And we know what that means, don't we?
Mm.
And I
Casting
stopped.
director.
I came off the phone and I burst into tears. It was really wonderful. And then my Chris wanted to have a Zoom with me, and we'd been in touch anyway a little bit because we'd wanted to go for a drink and then meet each other and stuff, and then we couldn't because of COVID, and then So yeah, the first time we met, he was saying, what would you like to do in the episode? And
Oh, fantastic!
Oh my goodness.
What a dream! That's amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it? So, what was it like working with Jodie and Mandip and John and everyone else and Janet?
it was just brilliant. It was Jodie and Mandip are just like a dream, and they're so friendly and so lovely. It's just how everybody has always said it is, and better, really. You just immediately... It reminded me of... Sylvester had this policy of whenever people came in to really... He created it like a party. We were having a party. And it was the same. It was just the same. Not only the cast, but the crew as well. The crew were fantastic. All of them, every single one, were working so hard and so dedicated to the programme. Lovely, lovely people having a laugh.
Yeah, that's what we've heard,
Yeah,
isn't it, Paul?
yeah.
Everyone that we've spoken
It
to
is,
who's
yeah.
been in part of the show has said the same thing, and it's wonderful, and it makes us really quite jealous that we're stuck in our little rooms
But I also-
doing this.
I think that is in always large part down to the lead actor. and you've got to give Jodie massive credit for creating that whole environment. Yeah,
she's fantastic in it. Yeah. So it's not really your first. It's not your first run in of Ace and the 13th Doctor, is it?
It's not my first radio. No, exactly.
No.
Well, that came about, Well, no, ask me the question first. I saw
it was. Paul,
before you've asked it.
He
was just dropping that
can
one
see
in
where
there,
I'm
wasn't
going.
it, really? The question just insinuates itself.
So, where did the idea for At Childhood's End come from, and what was the process of writing it like for you? Where did the idea come from? What inspired you for it?
See that he gets like
that was
I say
great,
it's one,
yeah.
and then I'm boom, 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 boom.
He's good at that.
Well,
Machine gun
what happened
questions.
was an email from Steve Cole, who I'd known for years.
He's
originally.
Yeah, I recognise that name.
And he's also Mr. Dinosaurs in Space Books. That's he's written brilliantly and often for Doctor Who books. And he emailed me and said, Tom Baker did this book. Scratchman, la la la. He told me about that, which I didn't know about at the time. And guess what? Penguin want you to be the next one to write a novel. And it was like, oh my giddy aunt. Anyway, he said, well, don't worry, because we'll help you through it. And Mike Tucker's on board as well. Now, Mike was. We got on really well back in the day. He was just starting at the BBC in visual effects. Yeah. And I got on really well with all the visual effects crews. They were just bonkers. They were great. And Mike and I, exactly. Yeah. And we had we brought out a book back then because we both used to take photographs on set as well. So we brought out this sort of almost like a scrapbook of the making of Doctor Who. Ace, the inside story of the end of the era was called, and so he was the obvious person to collaborate too. So we went out. We met in a lovely chocolate shop in Buckinghamshire because we kind of.
So you choose your meeting venue very wisely.
I really do, yeah. And we talked about ideas, and I just finished recording the trailer that Pete McTurnan for the
for the DVD box set. Yeah.
So I said, look, I've got a very clear idea of who Ace is now, Dorothy. She wears this, she does this, she's, and we just began from there really. So it was really based on that image of Ace in that office. Yeah. Which is obviously we used it in the book, and then we wrote a long synopsis to get the whole story, a short synopsis, first of all, to get the whole story. And then we did a long synopsis, and then we fleshed it out. But it was a very short lead time, really, to write the book. So,
That's probably not a bad thing, though, is it? When you know you got a deadline that's pretty near, you just put your back against it and go for it.
And I knew that the moment where Ace met the 13th Doctor was the kind of
I was going to ask you.
For me, that was the pivotal point of the book, and I thought, well, fans will this will be the moment, really. So I wanted to get as much in there as possible, and I was thinking, how's the whole idea of Ace testing the Doctor to see what what would she know about Ace? I like that idea.
Did BBC Books say that they wanted 13 in it, or was that your okay? But obviously you knew that version of the character and followed the era anyway.
Yes, I had, and also I've done a lot of her audiobooks because I seem to be able to do Jodie's voice. Don't ask me it now.
So we got a question from one of our friends on Twitter. His username is at Ethan_LMP, and he says, "Has Jodie heard your impression of her in the audio?"
No. There was a scene we were recording, and somebody whispered to me something about voiceovers, or someone said something about Tree Fu Tom, and I went, Tree Fu Tom, welcome to Treetopolis, and Jodie just went, what? She said, Are you the voice of Tree Fu Tom? She couldn't believe it. And then I did Dennis the Menace. But then I drew the line at doing her.
I think
that would
that
be
feels
brilliant.
like that should
Jodie
be
back to Jodie.
that needs to be a video, doesn't it?
It does.
I was
something.
watching Peter Rabbit with my kids a little while ago, and I thought, hold up, I recognise that voice, and I rewound it, and they were like, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, "I just needed to check something," and then I made sure I waited to the end credits, and I was like, "Yeah, I knew that name." Yeah.
That was great.
So.
You knew it. This is the thing, actually, because I noticed this when because you guys having been on Big Finish for since forever. You know that the voices are always in my head, and it's like India Fisher on MasterChef as well. You just instantly recognise the voices, and you think, it's like a whole world that you don't see, but you hear and experience it that way.
It is a whole world. You're right.
Yeah,
Voiceover world.
Yeah. So I'm sort of
because we spoke to Bhavnisha Palmer as well, didn't she? She does a lot of voiceover.
Yeah, she does, and it's quite a good kind of line of work, isn't it? So my day job is video production, and I know quite a few actors and things, and as you probably know, Sophie, it can be tricky to get work continually, can't it?
Yeah.
But when you are broadening your skill set a bit, so if you're an actor and you present as well, or you do voiceover work, you're 3 times more employable than if you only do one of them, aren't you?
Well, I think it's got its pros and cons. But when I was doing Doctor Who and Corners, and children's programs, nobody really knew where to put me because I was a singer as well. The only thing that I wasn't trained in was dancing, but I could do lots of stuff, and so people never really. Are you an actor? Are you a presenter? Are you in musicals? What are you? Nowadays, I think it's much more free. People accept that a lot more, and in those days as well, voiceovers were slightly frowned upon. You didn't want to be in voiceovers. It was seen as very commercial, very
really.
But now you're desperate for a good old voice.
Yeah, people want a voice reel, don't they? Yeah.
And one of the great advantages, of course, was during lockdown. Early on, I bought a microphone and turned our tiny little airing cupboard into a little studio. So I do a lot of audio books and stuff from home. So that's been a great advantage.
That's pretty good, isn't it? See, the other thing as well about voiceover, if you get the right sort of, if it just kind of happens magically that you just get something that imprints itself on somebody, like you said with Jodie, recognising you suddenly as the voice of Tree Fu Tom, Tree Fu Tom, whatever he is. I'm too old for that one. That was big. But it's like when those voices, those characters imprint themselves upon you. And you grow up with them in there, and they stay with you for life.
I'm of the age where people like Brian Cant and
yes,
and Carol Chell and people like that, Play School and
Geoff's got
no, look at his blank face.
Yeah.
And
our listeners can't see me looking gormless.
Peter Purvis was my hero. Yeah,
Peter Purvis
and John Noakes, Valerie Singleton. I mean, I know that ages me completely, but those voices are so distinctive part of your childhood.
They take you straight back there, don't they? Yeah, they do. And Finger Bobs. That wasn't a voice so much, but the songs and Bankless and all that kind of thing. Oh, God bless. Oh, I don't know. So, what other questions have we got there?
I've got a quick one here for you. This is from Maddie on Twitter, who's at madk089. And they ask if you've got any plans for writing more books or perhaps writing for Big Finish.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I have actually written a little something. I don't know whether I'm meant to say it. It's not a big thing, but it was really enjoyable to do. I don't know when that's coming out. Big Finish is interesting. I'm not sure about Big Finish because it's so complex, the whole history. I don't know whether I'm a bit scared to think that I could tackle that. But you never know.
It's quite something now, isn't it? The whole. Do you mean Ace's history or just the general kind of big?
The whole thing. We've talked about that, haven't we?
Enormous. And recently, I've even popped over into Torchwood as well now on Big Finish. So,
Oh, have you? I didn't know. Well,
Yeah,
I was going to ask because you've got a story coming out with the 10th Doctor later this year,
Yes,
haven't you?
I have.
So did you record that during lockdown in your
Yes, I was
homemade
in my
studio?
airing cupboard with my towels and sheets, and David was
That's what it is.
in his attic, I believe.
Was he?
Yeah.
It's pretty good, isn't it? You just do these things cheaply. I'll tell you what I was listening to from Big Finish recently. Hold your horses, because I was really looking forward to these ones. Is these ones here, the Lost Seasons? What's that? Earth Aid, and what's the other one? Animal and Thin Ice, and those ones there, which are great because those were the stories that were supposed to happen after the series was cancelled back in '89, wasn't it? And was it? Did it feel like you were getting any sense of closure by coming back and doing those stories, or was it by the time they came around, it kind of didn't really matter so much?
Can I just chuck one in there as well? When the show was cancelled, did you think that was it for Ace, and did you ever think you'd be get that chance to go back and
Never
reprise the character, but also like Paul's saying, do the lost stories that were supposed to have happened?
No, we never thought that. It was really sad, and luckily both Sylvester and I had things to go on to, but it was sad. And the thing is that the BBC had really lost faith with Doctor Who in those days. There was no marketing, there was not really any merchandise. It was the fans that had been keeping it going, and John Nathan Turner. They wanted something new and different. Now I look back and I wonder if we had just carried on, if it would have just slowly sunk into oblivion, and then nobody would have ever done it again. So maybe it was a good thing.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I'd like to think anyway. But then what was brilliant was that we knew a lot of the fans by this time who were professionals, like yourself. And they were doing all sorts of spin-offs, audio and video stuff. A guy called Bill Baggs, who had this company.
Oh yeah, Stranger videos
and audios, and that's where the audio adventure ideas started from. He made the mistake of using Ace as a character and the Professor, and the BBC said to him, "This
can't do that."
So he thought, "Oh dear, okay." Well, he had to stop.
Oops.
And then Gary Russell and Jason Haig-Ellery, who we also knew really well from fandom, they went to the BBC and got turned down for the license, I believe, initially.
Oh, really?
And then persisted and went back. They started the Bernie Summerfield.
Yes.
Of course.
And the BBC called them in and said, "These are terribly good. Would you do some Doctor Who?" Forgetting that
that they'd already been in, and
and that's how it started. And we were doing. Sylvester and I did a story. What was this BBV? I get muddled up. But there was this guy, this fan called Mark Gatiss, who wrote one for us.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've heard of him.
He might have. Yeah,
Where did he
might
come
have a
from?
future in Doctor Who.
No, I know.
Never know.
Yeah.
No.
Possibly. Yeah.
Do you know?
But
I was
go on,
going
Geoff.
to say, Paul, do you remember where you were when the last episode, Survival went out? And I might have told you this before, but I was at my grandparents' flat down in Cornwall, and I said, "Oh, Doctor Who's on." So I was probably 11, 12, something like that. But Doctor Who's on tonight. And my dad said, "Oh, we're here at your grandparents. You're not going to go and watch it." And my gran said, "Oh, let him go watch it, dear." I can't do a Cornish accent. "Let him go watch it, dear." And I went and watched it, and I remember, it sticks in my head that there was something like an announcement that said, that was it, kind of thing. And but I remember coming back from watching it and saying, "Oh, that was the end of it." I don't know if you remember it that way, Paul, but there was a kind of, it was very clear in my head that was it.
Extraordinary.
I'll tell you, weirdly, what I remember more than the end of Survival is the beginning of Battlefield, because it was really weird. Because I remember just sitting at home, and I was with my girlfriend of the time. She's very, very new. It was a brand new relationship, and we'd settled on the sofa, and my parents were out, and she goes, "Oh, let's just watch telly." So, okay, all right, I'll just watch telly then. Put a telly on, and literally Battlefield was starting, and I had no idea that Doctor Who was starting at that time, at that night. And this is me, big-time Doctor Who fan in those days. And I don't know what happened to the girlfriend. I don't think I ever saw her again. But as soon as Battlefield started, that was my entire attention right there and then. That was it. But it's like you're saying about, lack of marketing and lack of investment and lack of love from the BBC, because there was nothing to tell me that a new season of Doctor Who was starting right there and then. It was only by chance we switched the TV on, and it literally went and started.
Things are easier these days, aren't they, with social media, and you can more easily be.
You can't avoid stuff these days.
You can't avoid it. But back then, it was completely different, wasn't it?
Oh, back then, unless you bought the Radio Times, really, you'd. Yeah.
And actually read it as well. That's kind of key to the thing.
And there was the odd trailer here and there, but not. It was really hard to know what was going on. So I think that's probably why we had our favourite shows, because we knew that they were going to be on at a certain time.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
We did, and then of course we got the new Adventures as well, didn't we?
Yes.
So.
Well, Darth Elevens at Virgin was another one of those great fans who kept it going, and actually he published the book I was talking about earlier with that Mike and I did. But yes, he was instrumental in having these new adventures published. And again, all sorts of writers were sort of fledged their wings.
Yeah, and I think Mark Gatiss, that person you mentioned, that name I've never heard of. I think there was one from him in there as well in the early days. Russell somebody as well wrote something, I think, and Paul Cornell,
something like that,
someone like that.
In fact, Paul came up with Dorothy McShane.
He did indeed, yeah. Oh, that was in his what was that? That was Revelation, wasn't it? I think his first novel, and he really sort of dived. And it was almost like a lot of those writers really latched onto Ace and told their story through Ace. The Doctor became a bit more aloof, a bit more detached and more alien, but Ace was the anchor point. And I think it was the thing that attracted me to those novels was how much they, maybe too much in some ways, but really mined her character and pushed her character into so many situations. It was unreal. How did you feel that they for the treatment of Ace in those novels? Because I think
I did catch up with a few of them. I didn't, and I heard about I heard about a lot of them through the fans. I was just really happy that people really were keeping the faith, And I think the thing you said about the Doctor becoming more alien and mysterious, that's great, because that's exactly what Sylvester had set out to do. He wanted that. And which is why he changed the colour of his jacket between seasons from light to dark. He wanted to be a darker, more mysterious character, so that you'd kind of that the companion's always been the eyes of the audience, and that was where it really started, I think, in earnest, where we really got Ace questioning the Doctor's motives and
We'd never really seen that in Doctor Who before, even going back into the final season now with stories like Ghostlight and The Curse of Fenric and Survival. Those stories which really explore Ace and throw her to the wolves, almost literally, isn't
definitely.
it? And let her face up with her past. And and it was almost like, and I know you probably heard this all the time, but I loved the Seventh Doctor era completely. I really did. But it felt like it was just getting really, really good. It'd always been good, then it got better, and suddenly it got really, really good. Like all the drama and all the character development, which seemed to happen on other shows but never really got underway with Doctor Who. Suddenly it all crashed in that final season, and I just remember thinking, we just need more of this now.
I think that's absolutely right, and that is due in no small part to Andrew Cartmel and his. Really, what he was doing was fostering a writer's room. He would go out. He was seeking writers who he was interested in and who he wanted to bring on and promote. And I remember, like, between Dragonfire and then the next season where I did Remembrance of the Daleks, he and the writers, we all went out for a meal together so that we could talk ideas. But he brought all the writers together I mean, they weren't collaborating on. They had each of their stories to write, but and Pete McTighe was telling me that's what they do now.
Yeah,
that's what they do
years
now.
ago, he was ahead of his time with that, creating this pod of writers who knew what the other people were capable of, who really respected each other and were swapping ideas and talking together.
Yeah, and I felt that was sort of similarities with where he was taking the Seventh Doctor with the kind of mysterious, other, that had more involvement in Gallifrey's origins and what Chibnall did with Jodie's Doctor,
yes.
With the Timeless Child arc, and they were, obviously Sylvester's one never kind of got to play out on screen, but there's some similarities there, I think, and which have kind of enriched the character and helped push both in in directions that we hadn't really seen before.
Yes, this mystery. Like, I think I had a line, "Who are you?" And then he had a line, "Oh, I'm more than just a Time Lord."
Yeah,
you kind of wanted to. Yeah. Oh, what would that have been like?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, was it? There's a line in there's a line in Remembrance of the Daleks, I think, isn't it? Where, and I'm being sad fan now. Sorry, I'm in sad fan mode. Where there's a scene with you and Sylvester on the stairs, sort of talking about the Hand of Omega. Yeah. And Sylvester says, "And didn't we have a good time with the prototype?" And you said, "We." Matter of speech, he goes, but that means little drops like that just got me really excited for the whole thing again. I thought this is great because now the Who is back in Doctor Who, and like Geoff said, nowadays with the Timeless Child thing again, who is the Doctor?
It's like you said, Sophie. It's literally, who are you? The Doctor didn't even know her own history now, so I thought that was wonderful.
Exactly.
And just say I went to London Comic Con back in February, and Sylvester did a talk there, and so I went with a couple of friends that we know through Twitter, and he was absolutely brilliant, and he had the whole place in stitches. He kept reminding us he was in The Hobbit, which I thought was really funny. But yeah, he was brilliant, and I met Jodie and Mandip at the event as well, and they were lovely.
Oh, yeah.
So you do quite a few conventions, don't you? So what's it like for you? Do you I guess you enjoy going to them and meeting fans?
I love going to them. I think what's brilliant is that, well, it's twofold really. One is that we meet each other, the people in the show, and from other shows as well. So it is like, I remember when I first got the part and they said, "Welcome to the family," and I thought, bit sicky, but actually it's so true. And the way that everybody gets on with each other, supports each other, has each other's back, rings each other up, we all, it's really, really lovely. So there's that quality, and then there's also meeting the fans and really getting to see the difference that Doctor Who's making and made in their lives over many years, and also fans who have been. I mean, I was in Bedford a couple of weeks ago for a convention, and somebody was there who I've known these people for 30-something years, and this guy was at my first ever convention,
really?
and remembers the moment where I was introduced on stage, and so it's like it's a shared past, which I think is really important, not only for the fans but for us as well, because it was a really just a central, well, it still is a central part of all of our lives.
Yeah, it's just we love being part of it, don't we, Paul? It's
Yeah, we do.
Greatest TV show of all time. So I'm aware, Sophie, you've got to go in a minute. So I've got one or two quick questions. Paul, have you got any that you want to ask quickly?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got literally hundreds, but we'd be here all night if we went through them. Oh, that'd be fabulous. It'd be good to do it after the Centenary show, actually, because then we can talk about that and without any sort of worry, without any NDAs sort of getting in the way. Yes.
You get the gag coming in and silencing you. So there's a quick question here from Sophie the Otter.
I know what you're going to
ask. If you were a biscuit, Sophie, what biscuit would you be and why?
Oh, I'd have to be a vegan biscuit nowadays because I'm a vegan.
Right.
Are there many vegan biscuits?
Yeah, there are a fair few. I think, yes, probably Yeah, so you have to have stuff without egg and milk, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah.
I would be. Oh well, if I was being any biscuit, I'd probably be a lovely digestive, dunked in a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Ooh, now you're
With a
talking.
bit of squidgy, biscuity, base left in the bottom
Yeah,
of the cup.
and then a little teaspoon to get the.
Yeah.
Barf. That sounds disgusting.
And even
I
better
don't
when
like
it's
the
a
sound of
chocolate
that.
digestive as well, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
melt
No,
it in there.
no, you can't be done with chocolate digestive. No, that's just wrong. That's just not good. I don't like that at all. I won't be having that.
So, Paul, did you have anything else you wanted to ask? I've got one more, which can be our last one before Sophie's got to dash.
Okay, here we go then. So here's a good one, right? In short answers, what qualities do you think, Sophie, are Ace's strengths?
I think her authenticity. She's able. She just says what she thinks,
Well, she does
and
that,
her
yes.
vulnerability. I think,
Yeah.
and her big heart.
Yeah.
She's got a big.
She's got a very big heart and a sack full of
yeah,
beans,
that as well.
You can't-
probably,
yeah.
just in case all of the above. Can I just say, actually, just very, very quickly, because you mentioned that audition piece you did, which was the scene in Dragonfly with
Yes.
you and Bonnie in the room. Is that the one? I watched it quite recently. I'd never really thought about it, but it's an absolutely beautiful scene. And I'll tell you what I like most of all in that is how you and Bonnie get on. You can, because when you said it, you can tell there's a chemistry there, and it makes me wish so much that there'd been just another couple of stories at least with you and Bonnie playing Mel and Ace together, almost like an extended handover. But maybe that happened in another universe, not this one. But it would have been great.
Yeah, I'd
to
have
see.
loved that. Yeah, and whenever Bonnie and I get together, I mean, for a start, nobody can stop us talking. They have to actually forcibly pull us out of the green room to do some recording.
Rise her awake! Split them up! Oh dear, that's all good fun.
So my last question then is what's next for you other than the Centenary episode?
Oh my
Which you
goodness!
can't talk about.
I've got a lot of audio books to do now. I have loads of conventions coming up, even more since the announcement. I've got. I'd love to do some more filming, theatre, because it's all opening up again now. Of course.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll have to see. What happens as well after. I'm hoping that people will go, oh, remember her? Would be good in my Hollywood blockbuster.
Well, yeah, but that shot of the two of you with the guns, that's pretty epic.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's got to be for
Yeah,
a Die Hard
surely.
sequel, or not even a
Yeah,
sequel,
a brand new series,
thing
yeah.
now with Tegan and
Yeah.
Ace just kicking ass and firing big guns at whatever they're firing at, which we can't talk about because
We don't know.
and you can't tell us. So.
but we'll find out.
Yes, we will find out sooner or
Absolutely.
later. Brilliant. Okay, Sophie, thank you
so much.
so
This has
much
been
for
brilliant.
joining our podcast, and it's been an absolute delight talking to you. You are one of my heroes of all time, and your character inspires my daughter
Thank
as
you.
well,
Yeah,
who didn't want to be in
Oh,
today.
bless her. We'll give her my love.
Yeah, she's big
I
fan,
will
yeah.
indeed. I'll give her a baseball bat to beat up a Dalek, which was for her the defining moment
Hey.
of Ace's
Yeah.
time in Doctor Who. But
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and hopefully we could do this again when
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Centenary has
definitely.
come out.
Let's do
That'd be
that.
great, and then we can talk in more depth about it.
Great.
Brilliant. Take care.
All
We'll
right,
see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
fabulous.